My next guest was elected to the Senate as a pro-gun Democrat in 2007. He voted to allow guns on Amtrak trains in 2009. And everything changed for him after the Sandy Hook Elementary School massacre in 2012. Pennsylvania Senator Bob Casey just published this piece in the Washington Post this morning about his own shift on guns. And he writes, "I will never forget the shock, horror, and grief of learning that 26 families would never see their loved ones again. I was struck by the stark realization that we did not have to live like this. The idea that more than 24 students and educators could be slaughtered in a matter of minutes because a 20-year-old had virtually unfettered access to weapons of war was too much to bear. So I changed my position, and now it's time for many of my colleagues in the Senate to do the same." Senator Bob Casey joins me. Senator, thank you. Why did you write this? Do you think it's because this is a moment when you guys actually act?
Yeah, Poppy, I think it is a moment, and there are times in American history where you come to a fork in the road, either as a member of the United States Senate or as a citizen, and in this case as a legislative body, the Senate. I think we're at one of those forks in the road, and you have to ask yourself, I believe, the same questions that I was asking myself in December of 2012. I guess it was December the 12th, on that Friday, when I began to hear the news about Sandy Hook. And my reactive position was, no new laws will make a difference. That was the lane that I was in. And there are only two lanes in American politics on the question of guns. You're either in the lane that says there are no laws that will make a difference, or you're in the other lane that says we have to act, we have to try something to at least reduce the likelihood that we're going to live in a country that accepts this kind of violence. It's totally contrary to the American experience to surrender to a problem. We didn't surrender in World War II to the most powerful armies in the history of the world. We didn't surrender after 9/11. We stopped terrorists from flying airplanes into buildings. And we can do the same thing on gun violence. No one is saying it's going to take one law or a couple of weeks or months. This is going to take years to solve, but we have to start. The Senate has to act now to come together, and I'm grateful for the work that's being done on a bipartisan basis.
I remember reading about that moment when I think a reporter told you or was talking to you initially right after Sandy Hook, and you said, "I don't think new gun laws are going to change us." And then you went home and your wife and your daughters frankly chastised you for that position and helped you evolve. And I ask you that in the context of the polling from CBS shows 44% of Republicans think that mass shootings are something this country is going to have to accept to live in a free society. I wonder what you say to them, considering your own evolution. Like, you were in that seat in a different party, but you were saying then what they're saying now.
Yeah, I think they have to, or they should at least, confront the same questions that I've confronted, but frankly, the questions that Americans are confronting. I mean, do we have to wake up? Look at this. This is a headline from what happened in Uvalde. Yeah. I mean, that's the headline. Are we going to wake up year after year, generation after generation, to headlines with the pictures of fourth graders, children in schools, and say there's nothing the most powerful nation in the world can do? That is a defeatist point of view, in addition to being wrong on the policy. It's contrary to everything we say we believe in as Americans. And I think they have to, I hope they're confronting the same questions I was confronting from my 4 daughters and from my wife, but also watching the coverage that weekend, that terrible weekend in December of 2012, hour after hour, and seeing what happened to those children. And now that we face the reality that these children couldn't be identified except for DNA evidence. I mean, are we really saying that because of some political pressure that we're not going to respond to that? I mean, that's a kind of madness that I don't think many Americans are willing to tolerate.
So let's talk about what could get passed, you think, because our Lauren Fox's reporting is that Texas Senator John Cornyn, as you know, who's leading on the GOP negotiating side of this, at this point has a framework that would not include an ban on assault weapons, as you asked for in your op-ed, but it includes other things like hardening school security, a lot of mental health money, allowing juvenile records to be accessed for anyone under 21 trying to buy a high-powered weapon, potentially more funding to states for red flag laws. What we've seen in the past is when proposals didn't go far enough for many Democrats in the Senate, they voted against it. Are you willing to vote for something like that?
Well, look, I'm encouraged that some of the basic issues around the availability of guns are not off the table. Okay, so when we're hearing that the negotiations, and of course, nothing is final till they're done, but I'm encouraged that they're talking about maybe a waiting period for that. That's encouraging. That they're also talking about examining juvenile records before someone has access to a firearm. That's an important breakthrough. I don't know the details of what might emerge on background checks beyond that, but those are encouraging. But we have to get there because I think for a lot of Americans, especially for parents who are sending their children to school every day, a kind of despair I think is emerging across the country that this institution cannot respond to a problem that most Americans believe is a kind of condition that no Americans should accept. Yeah. I mean, we have to ask ourselves as well, where is a safe place in America? Grocery stores aren't safe, synagogues, churches, schools, over and over and over again. And I don't think most Americans are willing to live that way.
Yeah, you're right. We feel paralyzed as parents, and I think it's not the question of cannot act, it's will your body act and make change. Thank you very much for your time, Senator Casey.
Thanks, Poppy.